All right, welcome back. This is the sCAP course with Dr. VG. We're on lesson 2, which is perspective. We're going to have fun this week, so let's get into it. All right, welcome back. It's Doc V. We're here inside of our lesson 2. We're talking about perspective now, and we'll go ahead and move right in. We're already here on our page, and what we're actually talking about is exploring perspective. And what are we actually talking about with perspective? What I like in that particular space, there was a movie. I can't remember what it was. It was a James Bond movie, but one of the characters in the thing said, one man's terrors is another man's freedom fighter, Mr. Bond. I love that line. That was such a great line. It was such a small piece of the movie, but I really like that line because that's what we're actually talking about. We're talking about a point of view. Your viewpoint, your vantage point might be different than mine. Oh, there was a movie a long time ago, Vantage Point. It was a really great flick. It looked at a specific event from multiple directions, and it really told the story, I think, like 4 different ways. That's what we're actually talking about. I mean, we're looking at this. To me, the world is huge, but to astronauts, some of the people who were actually walking on the moon, it gave them a different view of what it meant to be human, to see the cradle of our humanity just floating in the void. It really touched some of them. It put a lot of human endeavor into perspective. I mean, that's it. That would be the sum total of everything we are, looking at the earth floating in the middle of space. Different. I mean, it's something I would love to be able to experience and to see for myself, but you can read about it. You can read about their experiences and their perspectives. It's been covered multiple times, and you can find it out there on the web as well. Perspective is relative because it can change depending on the relation or another view. Some person's perspective could change. It could change over time. It doesn't have to be something that has to happen right now. It could be something, other things that evolve, other things you experience, other things that you learn that could change your point of view. And it's shifting is what it does. Change. Some people look at education, right? They look at academia as these bastions of power and of liberal influence and so on and so forth. Well, let me tell you, I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but the whole point of education is indeed change. That's the point. That's the purpose. We have to get you to change, to accept new understanding, new education, so that you can walk away with something different, a different perspective on objects, concepts, languages that you may not have had before. That's my job in an academic space. I have to be able to accept and support changing dynamics, changing minds, changing views. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to enforce my own ideology. That's not necessarily true. Now, that's not what I'm actually talking about. I am talking about exposure. I mean, most students benefit the most with exposure to lots of different ideas. some ideas that fit into your biased worldview, other ideas which call into question everything you might have believed up to this point. That's really what education is all about, all right? Unfortunately, perceptions and perspectives might be hard to convey to other people, right? It just might not be easy for someone to understand your point of view. And for that, what we have are the steps for critical analysis for perspective. So, what we're looking at is the ability for someone to take a look at what you're actually talking about and apply analysis so that they can walk away with understanding and make sure we can try to minimize misunderstandings as much as possible. And these steps that you actually see here work along those lines to assist a person to do that. I mean, most of us just do this automatically. It's something that we rely upon. Where were we taught that? Life, for all intents and purposes. Life did this. What we have through Purveatech and our algorithms and Jiffy-Tios and the book is a more formalized method for applying critical analysis. And this is our first experience. So I will give you an example of something that my kids said years ago. Hey, Dad, they walked in. They said, Bandit just walked in and told me that it's lunchtime. What is a bandit? Bandit is my daughter's dog. All right. I mean, you probably see it there on the screen there. I throw the picture up. Bandit, people ask all the time, well, what is it? Oh, it's so cute. That's such a cute dog. I don't know. It's a mixture of something, some type of, I don't know. He's a mixture of cute and cool. That's how I look at it. Because wherever we go, people love this dog. And he just happens to be a good dog. He's a good dog. I say his job is keeping the girl occupied, keeping her protected, being there at night with her. But, he does his job. But he's actually a good, nice looking dog as well. So nevertheless, the boys walked in and said Bandit walked in and said it's lunchtime. So, my head is like, because you have to think about kids. I mean, these are little kids. They're like, Bandit walked in. Sir, it is time for my lunch. Now, I have a problem with all of that. You understand? Because that's how my boys used to think. That's how they used to act. And there were multiple issues with that. First off, the dog said, sir. I mean, how many American kids do you know of? American kids don't say sir anymore. Those days are over. So right off the bat, that was done. I mean, I don't know if I can believe it. Does the speaker or scenario present a perspective that's not even possible using established means? Could somebody have said, sir, in this day and age? Perhaps that is the case. Okay, I'll let that one go. Does the speaker's circumstance present a perspective that's not probable in current circumstances? It's possible. I mean, I'm not exactly, I don't know if you've heard of a talking dog. I'm not talking about anything that you'll find in Disney or Pixar. I mean, because they have talking animals. They're zoos all over the place. But for all intents and purposes, animals don't talk. I mean, I might hear something like that. I mean, the dog can talk like that. But, sir, lunch time? Nah, I'm just not saying that. But I'll roll with it. Does the presenter present a perspective that's not even possible, even if certain perceived person? Well, I mean, the event could occur if they were talking about something else. Does the speaker present a perspective that's not even been experienced by you or those? Once again, I rolled off with a few moments ago, I've never heard of anyone who in turn has heard of a speaking dog. Dogs just don't do that. They just don't do it. They don't talk. They don't talk like this with words, with my tongue, my teeth clacking. They don't do that. They speak in other ways. So, no. Does the speaker present a perspective that has never been experienced? No. Does the speaker present a perspective that has never been experienced by you? No, it has not happened. I've never heard a dog talk, cat talk, goat talk, bird talk, nothing. I've just never heard of it. Perhaps that is the case. I just read recently there is some research about trees talking. There used to be people who could speak to trees and forests. There are chemicals that allow certain trees through their roots or through the air. I don't fully understand it completely, but apparently there were humans. We've long since lost most of the art to do this, or knowledge behind it, who could effectively, I don't know, they're like tree whisperers. I mean, they can sense, they know. But the research I was reading was more along the lines of it's almost formal in a way. And we may have a means of tapping into this communication. I think it's really neat. I think it's really cool. I hope we as humans can start talking to trees. We have AI. I mean, why can't we apply a machine to talk to trees so that we can talk to them? I mean, I don't know I'm thinking they would know some stuff. They might not have the same sensory perceptions that we have. So the point of view, the perspective of the tree versus the point of view of me would be vastly different, but it would be neat regardless. Communication. I believe in communication. So nevertheless, looking at these things 4 and 5, I'm going to run off. No, can't happen. Yeah, the perspective of what you're talking about, the dog coming in there, I didn't really talk, Dad. He said, rah, rah, rah. So if that is the case, if the boy is talking about the dog saying, rah, 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 well, then I'm cool with it. But the dog said he wanted lunch. Dog doesn't need lunch, only eats in the morning and the night. So I'm thinking the thing wants snack. If the boy walked in and say, Bandit is looking for a snack, everything would have been cool. I would have accepted it. Some of you out there might have been saying, you should have accepted it from the beginning. The dogs, he was just making a generalization. He was just doing what a kid does. Okay, I can roll with it. I understand. I will accept that. That's how life is. I mean, you might have made the assumption that you should just accept it. It's a kid. Think you're an adult. Use your brain, man. I feel you. But we can take that same scenario and apply it across all kinds of things. I don't know, climate change. We could apply that to, I don't know, any number of the wars that we've been fighting over the past 20 years. There are all kinds of neat little things that you could say, well, that's not what they meant. You should be able to think past that. You can't. Not always. It requires additional information. It does. And sometimes the perspectives of some can hurt others. I mean, even though, I just didn't see it that way, I understand. And I understand, you might understand, but somebody else might not understand. So I could say, thus far going through these videos, I mean, there's a certain level of levity that I bring to this to talk about concepts which might be somewhat difficult to relay. But I'm going to go ahead and push that down for a moment and talk about something which really, this broke me. I felt bad. And for that, we need to talk about the middle to late 90s. So, what we're looking at, we're talking about the middle to late 90s. I had my boys. I had 2 of them. We raised 7 kids. We were like a Brady Bunch. I personally had 3 boys, and there was a girl later on in the mid 2000s. So, but 2 of my boys were alive at this time. Now, I'll give you some background on me. My boys are mixed. They have white mother, black father. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area and then moved out to Illinois. So I didn't really have friends out in Illinois. Well, I mean, I was fine. I did work. You understand? I mean, my friends were my kids. Every day they would have their dad upstairs giving them baths, singing, "The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah." They know this. That's what Dad did. Dad, I was the epitome of fatherhood. You understand? That's how I rolled. Now, I was, for all intents and purposes, the only black man that my children knew for quite a while. They had family. My ex-wife had friends, so we interacted, but I was really it. I didn't see my family that often. We didn't have the money to go back and forth. So who else did my boys see? Will Smith. They love some Will Smith. Independence Day, I can't tell you how many times we played that movie at my house. Remember that? Welcome to Earth. My boys loved that. Loved it. And then, what was it? Men in Black, right? Will Smith dressed up, put on the glasses. He's like, you know the difference between you and me? I make this look good. That's what he said. My boys loved it. They ate that up. And then, of course, you had the Wild Wild West. So they liked Will Smith because Will Smith was a hero to them. Right? He represented, he's a black man. He's like Dad. Dad sings Ants Go Marching. He plays with us all the time. He goes to work. We see him working. We see him going to school in the evenings, but he's always here. He's always cooking. He's always playing with us on the play set. He's always doing all these things. So he's our hero. He's who we kind of look up to. And now we see Will Smith out there. Will Smith doing it. Cowboys riding horses and flying in little contraptions and shooting laser beams. He did all kinds of things. That was Will Smith. There was something else that my boys were exposed to. All right? This is Alex sitting on the couch. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Oh, my tone is all off. I can sing that much better. But nevertheless, you know what I'm talking about. Cops. Cops, the television show. We watched Cops a lot. We did. It was, I don't even know why it would be hard to even imagine such a thing. We watched Cops. It had that neat little jingle ditty at the beginning of the show. You had the red and blue flashing lights. You had people running around there. Again, the Will Smith movies. Alien bad guys, and Men in Black, alien bad guys again, poor aliens. And then you had the Wild Wild West. With people running around there doing all kinds of things. Big giant alien spiders. That's what they said. That's what they saw. So they were into what society, what Hollywood presented. All right. We were driving down the street one day because you had to keep in mind, Cops is about, it was like a ride along for policemen. It wasn't an educational show. It was made for entertainment. And there was equal opportunity shackling for all kinds of people. I will say it did, for all intents and purposes, stay to the, let's say, disadvantaged and not as monetarily gifted portions of our population. True, but I'm not going to say it was all one race or all one gender. But they did shackle a whole lot of black men. That's what went down in the show. That's what happened. We were driving down the street one day and I see two black men on the corner about to cross the street. My boys are sitting in the back window down. It was summertime. I heard, oh my God. I'm driving, right? Didn't have the music on. We're just driving, boys sitting in the back. And they're like, look, Dad, bad bad boys, what you gonna do? I said, oh, I was never so mortified. Oh my God. I swung my hand back there, trying to slap or pinch. I tried to do something. Shut up! Shut up! Oh my God. And I immediately understood what happened. It was a perspective that was being reinforced seemingly every night in my household of black men being bad boys with the cops coming to get them. I did this. Now, I'm not saying that Hollywood created these things, these sources of entertainment. Let's see how we can screw over black men this century. I'm not saying they did that. Not at all. I'm thinking they were just after money, just like everybody else in this society, in the Western world. But the perspective of what was shown to my boys had an impact, and I can't imagine what it was like for two black men just walking across the street with a car rolling by and two little kids singing, bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you? Ugh! And they were my boys. We never, ever watched that show again. We didn't. There was a perspective that grew out of that I needed, that I saw, which was destructive. It makes me feel bad now. Doc V is suppressing the emotion in his voice currently because it does make me feel bad. That was something that I did, that I allowed. I had the tools available to me. I could have stopped, but I didn't. And that was something that I needed to fix. Those were perspectives that my boys had, that an external source had built, that caused pain for someone else. Someone who really who might not have understood. Maybe they could have understood. Why are you letting your boys watch that show, dog? I mean, that would have been a valid question. It most certainly would have been. I stopped. All right. Once I saw the impact, I needed different type of education. I needed to expose them to other things. Having that one source, hurt. All right. So that's what we're looking at with regards to perspective. That's how a perspective that might seem innocent could have far-reaching implications, cause so much damage, so much misunderstanding. Okay? Because what we'll find in the future, as we move into lesson 3, is that the accumulation of these perceptions, which influence our perspectives, grow our bias over time. And once that starts setting in, it becomes a bit more difficult to counter, and it actually starts to increase a lot of other negative things. Not to say that bias isn't natural, but it can lead to other things that we don't necessarily like. We'll talk about that as we move into the future. So that's what that was. I mean, I illustrated, I gave you an example of something that occurred in my past. And some of you out there, man, Doc V's he's all slapping his kids, reaching around, trying to rip necks. No, I really wasn't. That's not who I am. But it was a visceral reaction to something that I wanted to stop immediately. I mean, you're driving in your car. I mean, that's what happened to me when I was older. Oh, we're back there in the back. Boys, stop! We're going to pull this car over. Don't make us pull this car over. We're pulling it over. And before that ever occurred, my mother, she always reached her hand back there trying to pinch our legs. And, being dutiful kids, to give her the sense of control that she was actually looking for, we did sometimes, pass the leg over. There, Mom. My leg is here. And she pinched. She twists. Sometimes the pinches didn't even hurt. But we'd cry out in agony. Ow! I'm sure some of you have experienced that before. I mean, that's life. That's growing up. We have an activity here. If you're inside of a group, or if you're not in a group, even by yourself, you can think about these things for yourself. Jot it down and take a look at it and question these things for yourself. The American Civil War is a battle over economics. You understand? There are lots of point of views with regards to the American Civil War. Some people say it was over slavery. Some people say it was over economics. Some people say it was to preserve the Union. All three are valid. I mean, you could verify numbers, history, scenarios, situations, all kinds of things to make the point and prove it. However, sometimes it simply comes down to a matter of perspective. Write down some of your answers with regards to that. Not really answers, but your perspectives on these things. The conquering of the world by Genghis Khan shaped humanity for the better. I don't know how you're going to make that argument, but I'm sure you might be able to. Those who are not capable of securing themselves are destined to be ruled by others who can. Yeah, look at that. Self-determination. Strong and powerful. I know. The earth is flat. We're still arguing over that one for some reason. I'm not exactly sure, but we are. I say write some of those things down, organize your thoughts. It is not like we're going to be revisiting these things in an online fashion. If you're inside of a group, there'd be interesting things for you to discuss. Yeah, I'd like to be there for the earth is flat one. But nevertheless, it would be interesting things for you to discuss inside of groups. And of course, we have a last one. If you are inside of a group, I'd like some person to act as, I don't know, the leader or facilitator or whatnot. Identify a perspective, or not a perspective, a current event, something that's happening in the news, and apply the sCA of perspective against it. So past slides, about 2 or 3 slides back, we presented the steps for critical analysis for perspective, okay? Apply the current event, or apply those the questions, the steps to your current event to validate whether or not it would meet acceptable criteria for you to say, I can believe it, I can move with it, I can accept this as fact. Okay? That's what we're doing. Context events could be controversial, as we were talking about. You could try and establish fact from opinion as you're looking at those things. I would encourage you to do so, but do keep an open mind. Not everybody, once again, sees things the same way. Your perspective might be shaped by something else. There are many places here, still in our country, where you might have grown up in a small town and never had exposure to I don't know, to black people or Native Americans. You might have grown up in the city and never been exposed to people who raised pigs or who had to take care of chickens. I mean, these are perspectives that people hold that we just don't know. I've never grown chickens. I've never had to, what's that called? Where you pull out the udders of a cow. Milking. You're like, Doc V, you're not a doc at all. I've never milked a cow. All right? I just haven't done so. I don't know what goes into taking care of pigs. I don't know those types of things. I do know a lot about electronics. I know a lot about robotics, and I'm an expert in my particular field of AI. All right, that I know, but there are lots of different things and different perspectives that I don't know, and that's okay. Capture the analysis of your group, and you do the things that you do, and just have talk. That's really going to do it for our conversation here with regards to perspective and our second lesson. You do have work that you need to do. If you go back out to our site and go into course materials, you go on down lesson 2. What are we actually looking at? Looking at your lesson to-dos. I mean, you can see some of the things that we actually talked about today. You're looking at completing assignment 2 in the grade section. You'll find it out there. And then, of course, read the diversity of perspective until the chapter reflection and lesson 2. And that'll do it for us. I look forward to the things that you talk about with regards to your deliverables. And we'll be moving to lesson 3 next time, where we'll be talking about bias and a lot of other things. Thank you for taking the time with me today, and I will see you again. And as always, Jiffy Tayos.